at a Time Only podcast. My name is Nicholas Lassen. I'm going to be your new host. A little bit about myself. I've been playing Magic since 1997. I started playing right before Stronghold. I have played and judged at several mini Grand Prix and Pro Tour. I am currently really excited about drafting on Magic Online, and I'm here with Danny Cathro, Silver Pro.
Hey, yeah, I've been on the show for a little bit, so hopefully everybody's familiar with me. But yeah, I got Silver Pro last year, which is sweet.
And Nick Salas, soon to be Silver Pro.
What's up, everybody? I've been playing Magic since 1970s. Let's do this.
The show today is brought to you by two wonderful sponsors. We have Oasis Games in Salt Lake. You can find them at www.oasisgameslc.com and the Manabase at www.themanabase.com. If you're interested in supporting the show, you can find us on Patreon at LTOMTG. We have a little bit different show for you planned today. Today we're going to be doing our Core 19 Common Set Review. So we're going to be skipping a few of the normal segments, and we're going to be jumping right into the cards that you need to know before your pre-release. All right, so we're going to start the show today by talking about the white commons that you're going to need to learn, to know and love. The first card we'd like to talk about today is Cavalry Drillmaster. Cavalry Drillmaster is a 2/1 for 1 and a white. When it enters the battlefield, target creature gets +2/+0 and gains first strike until end of turn. Who's excited about this card?
I think this was one of the ones that I was pretty excited about. I think your 2-drops are normally pretty interchangeable. This set looked like white was trying to be pretty aggressive. So it has like some 3/1s. It has a 3/1 for 2. It has a flyer for 1 that might see some play. And I just thought that this card could be good when you draw it in the late game. And I think that's a really big upside for your 2-drop. If it's not only good just on curve, but also if you draw it on turn 5, it'll do something pretty impactful and get in some damage or force a jump block or something. So,
I mean, it seems like it might almost be better off curve, this particular 2-drop.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's designed to like double spell, right? Like I've had draft decks where you just have like 10 2-drops, and this would be perfect in that type of deck, right? So you play a different 2-drop, play a 3-drop, and then you play another 2-drop in this one, and it really snowball.
So this is a card that I am, for the reasons that you're excited about. This is a card that I'm not excited about because it just feels like it's going to push the aggressive decks. And it feels like it's going to push the format in like a more aggressive type of way, where it's kind of like, it's like a spell on a creature. And +2/+0 and first strike is like a pretty big deal. And it's like already a 2/1 on its own. It dies to everything. Mm-hmm. But it's just going to feel so bad when they go like 1-drop. I don't know if there's any good viable 1-drops in this format yet. Like
the flyer could be good. It's a 1/2 flyer for 1. It's like
okay, that could be okay. But they're gonna go like 1-drop, 2-drop, like 3-drop, and like if they have one of these and then another 2-drop or 2 of these, it's gonna be a nightmare.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be tough. Like you're gonna have to use your life total as a resource, which is not always gonna work out very well for you. But I mean, strictly on power level, I think this is gonna be a pain to play against. But
especially in core set limited situations, there are less keyword abilities. And I think something like First Strike is incredibly powerful when we look at things like core set limited.
It's not the end of the world either. It's still just like a 2/1 for 2.
If you have to play it on curve, you're not.
Oh, yeah.
Also, I think what this card really shines is when you're in something like the Blue-White Flyers deck and you're able to, take your generic 2/2 flyer and give it +2/+0 in first strike. It makes it to where they can't make any good blocks. Like, those are the decks I think it really is going to shine in.
For sure.
Yeah, and like Danny said, if you have it on turn 2 and you have no other 2-drops to play, or it's like the best 2-drop to play it on the turn, play it anyways. Don't worry about the bonus.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's talk about the next white card we're excited about, Daybreak Chaplain. Daybreak Chaplain, for those of you who don't know, costs 1 and a white. It's a 1/3 with lifelink. It may seem a little underwhelming at first, but I think that the 3 toughness is what's going to make this card really special.
Yeah, this is the one that I wrote down. And in the let's go back to the 2/1 that we just had. So your opponent plays a 2/1. you play this 1/3 with lifelink, and it just blocks down the board for forever and ever. And the lifelink is really important. It blocks down against the 2/1 forever. Not like the next 3-drop or the 4-drop. But it invalidates like their 2 mana plays. Sometimes it validates their 3 mana plays, because if they just play a 2/3 for 3, I'm not sure how many of those are in the format. But most of the ones that I picked today were just cards that could highlight like where the format could kind of go. If the Daybreak Chaplain ends up being really good, I think we could maybe see like a more like board style format. I'm not sure. What do you think about it?
So I was looking through some of the commons, and so each common kind of gets its common 2-drops, and those are pretty much going to be played in most every deck, just because you need to have 2-drops in your deck, right? And so green has 2 that are brick walled by this. Blue has, I think, 2 that are also brick walled. Like, it seems like it'll block most all of the 2-drops pretty effectively. White has a 3/1, but that's it. And there's a couple 2/3s, but not too many. It looks like it's mostly 3/2s for 3.
And I hyperbolized a little bit there. Like I said, it blocks forever and ever. But I meant against just like the 2
no,
format.
No, it makes sense. Like, it'll hold up the ground for
like
a while,
especially
right?
like if the black player is trying to do things like play Child of Night, for example. Like, this is the perfect answer to things like that.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think it'll be good. It's definitely just depending on what you want to do in white, right? So the first one that we talked about, the Drill Master, if you want to be aggressive in your white deck, then that's going to be good. If you want to be defensive, this is going to be way better.
Usually your sealed pools end up being a little bit more on the grindy side. You're building up towards the late game. And so that's where I think Daybreak Chaplain might be a little better than the previous one we talked about, the 2/1.
Yep. And white and black have a life gain sub-theme. So this also can sometimes do something there, which is awesome.
Yeah, this also might be a scenario where like this card is better in your sealed pools and a lot worse in your draft decks.
Yep.
That
happens quite often.
I think we're going to see that in this format, either the 2/1 that gives first strike and +2/+0 is going to be good, or the Daybreak Chaplain's going to be good. And that's going to kind of determine like where the format is.
All right. Well, let's talk about the next card on our list. This one is kind of your MVP basic white removal spell, Luminous Bonds. It's 2 and a white for an aura. Enchanted creature cannot attack or block. This is your basic 3 casting cost passivism style effect that we've come to see in most recent sets. It kind of just does everything that white is trying to do. You know, they're trying to control creatures via enchantments typically. So, do we have anything we want to say about this?
Yeah, this is basically in every set, and every set I kind of look and see how many ways there are to punish it. And blue is normally the main color that can punish it by you can flicker for free. Basically, there will be some
bounce or
just something like that. Like Jade Guardian was an example of a green card that when it entered, you bounced a creature you controlled, and so that would really punish this really hard. And I didn't see any commons that were super punishing. There is some black, like sacrifice your creature sub-themes. So
there's naturalized, right? I mean, naturalized is in the format.
Yeah, but that's not getting punished, really. That's just like trading one.
It's just 1 for 1, yeah.
Yeah.
We have the Blood Divination now, though.
Yes, what's that one?
Sacrifice a creature, draw 2 cards for 4 mana.
I think it'll be draw 3 cards if it's for 4 mana. Yeah, it's draw 3. Yeah, so that one would be
the uncommon, right?
Yeah, it's an uncommon.
Yeah,
so that at common, there's nothing. Yeah.
But yeah, this is just your run-of-the-mill removal. It's kind of near the best removal in the set.
Yeah, and I think the important thing to remember about this card, and in Core Set Limited, you don't have a lot of multicolored cards, so it's one of those things that's like incredibly splashable. So this is one of those cards I can see being like a high take as an off-color card even if we're not in white, especially in draft.
There's 10 dual lands, right?
Yeah, there are 10 dual lands at uncommon. I think they can show
they're
up
at common.
in the...
They're at common.
Oh, they are? I think they show up in the basic land slot.
Yeah, they're the ones that just interplay tapped and then add 2 different colors. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're not showing up in the common slot, but in the basic land slot sometimes instead. Just a little
That,
weird,
I mean,
but
and that makes the card incredibly splashable. You know.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
think it makes it way better. There's also Manalith, so there will be some decks that are probably interested in splashing.
yeah, I would look to board it out in the matchup. Well, maybe not even board it out, but if they have a bunch of things that can just doesn't even care about it, you have a bunch of ways to sacrifice your creatures. They have a bunch of ways to sacrifice their creatures. Maybe board it out then, but it's kind of just the best removal in the set because it's so cheap. It's unconditional. You get punished by activated abilities too, which is something to note. But I don't
Right, it's not an arrest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's either the best or it's close.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely in that discussion of one of the best, all-around removal spells in the format at common. The next card we're going to talk about is one you've either grown to love or grown to hate if you played a lot of Dominaria Limited. We have a reprint of Pegasus Courser. For those of you unfamiliar with this card, it is a 1/3 for 2 and a white. It does fly, and whenever it attacks, another target attacking creature gains flying until end of turn. For me personally, this is actually one of my favorite cards in Dominaria Limited. I have a tendency to take this card incredibly high, and I imagine that will continue to be the same in Core 19 Limited.
Yeah, I was watching some of the U.S. Nationals, and the person that won the draft, that was like the number 1 draft in day 2, he first picked a Pegasus Courser, and so this card's crazy powerful. Like, I think it single-handedly made the white decks able to win in Dominaria Limited, whereas because there were so many good defensive decks, and then Pegasus Courser was one of the few ways that you could really beat those decks reliably.
Yeah, I didn't like white in Dominaria, but when I did like white in my draft deck is when I had like 2 or 3 or 1 or 2 or to 3 Pegasus Coursers, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'll deal with this.
And especially like whenever you had him in a snapper, and you were just like, "Oh, make my 4 or 5 hexproof fly."
I always had Yargle with him.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that one felt good too. But I think this card's just crazy good, crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and go ahead.
I think it might even be better in this set. Like, you don't have a Yargle. You don't have a Yargle to pair it with. But since it's a core set, I think the flying is going to matter a lot more than it did in Dominaria. It did matter in Dominaria because you would get these crazy ground board stalls with saprolings and whatnot. But I just think it's a powerful card in general, and Dominaria was a powerful set. And I think the core set is not going to be as powerful. It's going to have these more basic cards, so they're going to tone it back a little bit. And because Pegasus Courser is still just a good card, it'll shine even more in this format.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and let's move on. Let's talk about the next card on our list. This one's interesting. It's Star-Crowned Stag. It's a 3/3 for 3 and a white. Whenever it attacks, it taps defending creature target player. Tap target creature defending player controls. So it targets the creature, not the player. We've had these type of effects before, and depending on the level of aggression in the format, they've been better or worse off for it. So I think this is one of those cards that, again, when we talked about the difference between Cavalry Drillmaster and Daybreak Chaplain in relation to how aggressive the format is, I think this is another one of those cards that gets better or worse based on how aggressive the format is.
Yeah, I think historically when this effect costs 4 mana, it's like significantly worse, right? So Territorial Hammerskull was like insane, super powerful. Mana, right? Yeah, that one was 3 mana. And then the ones I remember that cost 4 in general were like less impressive, but it's still very good. Like, it definitely does.
I don't like that this card is a 3/3.
That is like relatively big for what it does.
I think 3/3 for 4 is a good size.
I just think there's a lot of things that kill it, unless I'm crazy. Like, there's a -3/-3 card. There's like the electrify effect. There's like several different things, like lightning strike. Like, there's a lot of things it dies to. Like, I think this card's a lot better if it's like even a 3/4.
Yeah, well,
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so the effect is really strong though. Like, Territorial Hammerskull was like really strong, and they're always pretty good at 4. Like, if it was a 3/4, it would just get even better, because then there's like You have
I
to
just
have
want to live through more stuff,
or you have to have 2 4-power creatures to trade. But yeah,
Because the issue I have right now is I get that tap something, but it also trades it. You're able to trade up with it from the 3-drop slot in a lot of colors.
no, yeah, for sure. I think
this is
intentional. But
this is on curve with Pegasus Courser though, so I think when you're able to pair it up with Pegasus Courser,
Yeah, that's
common
pretty incredible. That's pretty
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah,
your
because you make both.
opponent
Yeah,
can
both
never
of those
block.
triggers. You're just like tap that guy, make this fly, like get you.
now they have to have 2 3-power
Your opponent's
flyers.
never blocking.
Yeah, exactly.
I think maybe that's where this card shines is in combination. Yeah.
For sure.
So let's talk about Take Vengeance. Take Vengeance is 1 and a white. It's a sorcery, destroy target tapped creature. This is one of the cards I was excited about, but this is also one of those cards that has a tendency that it's the type of removal spell that's either really good or really bad. Like I think it's a very polarizing card as to whether or not it's going to be powerful in the format, and it really lends itself to how often are we going to have tap effects. Like obviously it's great with Starcrown Stag. It's going to be
There's
one
a
of those
combo
things.
right there.
Right, there's a cute little combo. It's great with that, and the question is like how often, because like it feels like it wants to be in a deck that's on the defensive, but you kind of want it to remove blockers, which it doesn't really effectively do. So it's like kind of one of those weird cards that's trying to do 2 different things that are not really the same.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is not an aggro card at all.
No. I was pretty down on this card just because I think the 3 white cards that I picked were all aggressive, and I think from what I can tell, it looks like it'll be a relatively aggressive color, and so I think that this card will see play, but maybe not a ton. Like I think it'll be.
You think it's like a 22nd or 23rd card? Like you think it's one of those cards that like you'll play it if you have to, but you're not happy about it?
Just the way that I envision most of the white decks playing out. That's how I think it is. But like if there's defensive white decks, that'll be great. But I just think that most of the color combinations I saw were pretty aggressive.
It's better in sealed than it is in draft for sure.
Definitely.
And that's an interesting delineation. As we look at like you talk about the sealed formats being a little slower, a little more powerful. You know what I mean? If I can take out your dragon with that, you know what I mean? Like
exactly.
I feel like I've done some work.
I think this card is a little better than you're giving it credit for, Danny. It's kind of just unconditional removal. Sure, they have to have attacked with it first, but it still just kills anything. And
yeah, it's good.
Pair it with your Starcrown Stag, which is also common. You just literally get to kill whatever you want.
Yeah, no, that is definitely a sweet combo. I can just see, like, if you're in a draft, like an aggressive draft deck, you can't be playing like multiples of this, or you risk just like throwing away your So it just like you have to just plan for it, I guess. But.
I also think that this card is better in a format where we have some sort of IC type effect that we don't have in this format.
Yeah.
So
yeah, IC is always great.
I think it's a good card, but I don't think you want more than 1, like 2 is kind of pushing it.
I think this is probably the definition of a 22nd, 23rd card.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
If you don't have enough removal, then I might start like pushing towards it a little bit. If you're not aggressive, in aggressive decks, this doesn't really do anything.
Exactly.
All right, let's move into everybody's favorite color, blue. We're going to start with Aven Windmage. Aven Windmage is 2 and a blue for a 2/2 with flying. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Aven Windmage gets +1/+1 till end of turn. It's a strictly better Windrake. What do you guys
have
How do you feel about this?
We used to have Windrake at 2 and a blue.
And now you get this.
Flyer.
It's just a better Windrake.
We were happy with it. And now you just get this strictly better Windrake. I mean, it's fine. Like, it's great. I'll take it.
Do you remember when they had Aerial Guide and it was like Pegasus Courser and Windrake stapled together? That was like, that card was broken. But this one is pretty sweet. And there are, I think, are there any 2/3 flyers? Because that's when the nightmare really is. Is it like, if there's a bunch of 2/3 flyers, this card is impossible to block. But I don't think there's.
That's not even a nightmare, though. Like.
Well, yeah, they just attack into your 2/3. But
you want to. I think 3/2 is where you want to be at to block this card.
Exactly. Yeah. I think most of the flyers are 3/2s.
Yeah, a lot of your other flyers are 3/2s. I think that this card just you're gonna play this card. You know what I mean? It's not.
It's very good.
It's never gonna blow you away, but it's gonna be one of those cards. It's gonna be one of your workhorse kind of cards. You know, it's gonna get in there for 6 damage over the course of the game, and you're gonna be happy with that.
Yeah.
We used to get Windrake in core sets.
You should be excited. You used to have to play Windrake.
I don't know if I should be excited about this. This pushes this to me is telling me we're getting aggressive. This to me is telling me we're getting in for more damage than we are trying to block things. And that's when I'm kind of like, but I like to block things sometimes too.
I think that power creep is a real thing, though. Like, you know, without inherent power creep, the game gets stale, the game gets boring, and you have to do, especially these little subtle power nudges, I think are incredibly important to keep limited environments fun and interesting.
Yeah, I don't think this card is insane or anything. Like, it's just solid.
It's not insane, but it's just we used to have Windrake.
All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about the next card. This is a card I'm really excited about. This is the card that I feel like is doing exactly what you want to do in blue. Disperse. It's 1 in the blue. It's an instant. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. I personally really enjoy these type of effects. It makes me sad that they have put the word non-land on all of them in the last several years. I had a blast bouncing people's lands back to their hand, but apparently that's not fun.
For some reason, they don't like
thank
that.
you.
Apparently it's not fun. I don't know.
So I did think of a combo with Disperse. So you know the Dwindle? It's the aura that whenever enchanted creature blocks, you destroy it. So
you stack and bounce it?
Oh, yeah. You dwindle something, then they block, and then you bounce your dwindle, and then you dwindle something else again.
That's pretty cute.
Yeah. I feel like I'm going to be doing that a bunch.
Good work.
So while we're on the topic, I'm going to go ahead and explain that card because it's the next card we're going to talk about anyways, and we can kind of talk about both of these at the same time. Dwindle is 2 in a blue, enchantment aura, enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets -6/-0. Sorry, green mages. Yeah. When an enchanted creature blocks, destroy it. So let's talk about either of these cards, both of these cards. What are we excited about here?
So this one is pretty sweet. Like, it's a different take on the blue, like, make something useless card,
like
right?
Aether Meltdown?
Yeah. Aether Meltdown. There was, what's the one that...
Befuddle?
Yeah. Well, so what's the one that turned it into a wall
like,
from Lost Set?
There's like Pin to the Earth. I don't know which one. Ice Down or whatever.
Yeah.
We were just playing down.
I know, it was just, yeah. But this is an interesting take because they only get 1 block out of the creature, whereas a lot of times these cards aren't as good as they look because it does invalidate it, but then they still just have a blocker forever, right? So Deep Freeze, yes, exactly. So Deep Freeze, they had a blocker forever, and it was an 0/4, which is like kind of obnoxious. And so this, you are effectively doing the same thing. You're invalidating a large creature, and then they only get 1 block out of the deal. They can't just keep blocking over and over again. So it's better in your aggressive decks than what some of the other ones are.
This feels like blue got unconditional removal and is kind of getting away with it. Yep. It almost acts like a divine verdict, but they
I think it's sweet.
It's interesting because you have a card like this that kind of lets you play either an aggressive game or a defensive game. You know, kind of it helps you on both sides of the court, for lack of a better term. And it's interesting when you start talking about cards like this and cards like Take Vengeance. Like maybe there are slower, more controlling style decks out there that we're not seeing yet. But
yeah, and I think so. How like the interaction with Disperse in this card is cool. I definitely think that'll be something that comes up relatively often because you can kind of turn your Disperse into a hard removal spell. How do you think Disperse is if it's just bounce? Like if it's not actually removing it, you're just like the tempo part.
I'm a big fan of tempo blue decks. Like, coming from the World of Dominaria, that was the archetype that I had the most success with is blue-based tempo decks, playing things like a lot of like Journey Mages, Blink the Eyes, and especially in a world where, you don't have a lot of amazing comes into play abilities and, you're going to kind of have these games where people are going to be tapping out to play 5 and 6 drops. I love having the ability to just like bounce it and keep attacking.
Yeah, I can. There's certain matchups where disperse is like backbreaking, where you can just kind of strand so much mana in your opponent's hand and win the game.
Yeah.
So I definitely think it could be good. It is like sometimes you're punished, right? Like because you're throwing away a card, like you're down a card, so you have to really make sure that you kill them before they can deploy the rest of their threats most of the time.
Yeah. Disperse is gonna really shine in the blue-white deck, where you have these flyers, you have your Aven Wind Mage, you have your Starcrown Stags, Pegasus Coursers. You can put them way back on the back foot.
It makes it even harder for them to block.
Yeah. They're never blocking your Starcrown.
Yeah, that's going to be a problem.
I'm going to be excited. The first blue-white deck I draft, I'm going to be like, you're never blocking, literally ever.
Exactly.
Seems like a good tempo play. Blink of an Eye, it's not really. It's still fine, but
no, Blink was so much better. Yeah,
getting to Cantrip is so good.
Yeah, and here's the thing: is like the Cantrip was awesome, and that as a 4-mana spell, that's great. But I mean, there's definitely times when you just be like, the 2-mana spell's fine.
Yeah,
but Blink of an Eye, if it just said 2 mana bounce a thing and it didn't have the kicker, I don't think we would be playing it as much. I don't think, Dominaria wasn't really so much about that.
Yeah.
The kicker is what really threw it over the top. Like, it could be a 2-mana play.
Or a 4-mana play.
If their deck was aggressive and you needed it on tier 2, or a 4-mana play. If you could just buy your time and go ahead and cantrip off of it.
There is also a green-white deck that kind of looks like it's supposed to be really aggro and use a bunch of auras. And Disperse is like super punishing against that deck. So, because then you're actually getting your card back. You're killing their aura with your Disperse and like getting a bunch of mana advantage. So those are like the types of matchups where Disperse is just a tier stuff.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on. Let's talk about one of the cards I'm really excited about. Omen Speaker. Omen Speaker is a reprint. It's 1 in the blue for a 1/3. When it enters the battlefield, scry 2. It helps manipulate your deck. It helps smooth out your draws. It blocks, all of these 2/1s in a similar way to Daybreak Chaplain. It doesn't have the lifelink, but I think it's, the Scry 2 is incredible for what the blue decks are trying to do. And when this card has been in limited formats in the past, I've been very happy with it.
Interesting. It's a much better top deck than other 2-drops are, which is nice.
Yeah, I'm taking Omen Speaker all the time over Daybreak Chaplain.
Yeah.
The Scry is more valuable than the lifelink.
Yeah, of course. It almost acts as card advantage if you get to scry like both to the bottom. Scry 1 to the top, 1 to the bottom. Kind of acts almost like drawing a card and playing your 2-drop, eating your cake and having it too, or whatever, however the saying goes.
Yeah.
And I've been impressed by it in previous limited formats. This one might be a little bit more aggressive.
But I mean, that makes it good.
Yeah, I think it's good when the format's aggressive. Yeah.
Really? I think it's worse when the format's slow. Yeah, because it's a 1/3. Yeah. Like, it's clogging up the ground against their 2-drops. Like, I mean, it's doing the things you need it to do. You want it to hold the ground until you can, start playing your flyers. Your Aven Wind Mage. There's like a Snapping Drake, that kind of stuff. Like, if you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think when it trades off for a creature, that's like the ideal scenario. The bad situation with Omen Speaker is when it's a 2-drop and your opponent just kind of like doesn't play a 2-drop and just has like an aggressive, or maybe just plays a bunch of flyers, and then your 1/3 didn't really do anything, and now you're down a card and they have removal for your other creatures and stuff. That's when it like looks bad. But if it's like blocking, then it's doing great.
I mean, to be fair, like if I have like 3 lands in my hand and it puts 2 lands on the bottom of my deck, I feel like I'm champion.
It drew 2 cards. Yeah,
I feel like champion. So
yeah,
I was gonna say, is there anything else about this card? Or?
Do you guys just agree that if you scry to the top, you're like losing out on value? Anytime I scry, I just feel like it has to go to the bottom, or I didn't really, I didn't use my scry effectively.
Always scry to the bottom.
It's really interesting. It's really interesting to me because I spent 5 years playing professional poker. So one of the things that's really interesting to me is I love watching people's eyes when they scry. Like, because they get that little twinkle in their eye when the scry is real good. It's one of my favorite things. That's one of the. I know, like, we don't talk about it a whole lot, but that's one of the places where, like, Magic players you can gain so much value. Like if you just pay more attention to your opponent. So
They'll give away.
that's a whole other show.
I want to make a disclaimer. Don't always scry to the bottom. It was a joke. Just in case.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is don't always scry to the bottom. Words of wisdom. Let's talk about Salvager of Secrets. Salvager of Secrets is interesting. It's 3 and 2 blue for a 2/2. When Salvager of Secrets enters the battlefield, return target instant or sorcery card to your hand. This card is costed in a pretty similar manner to cards that have this ability in the past. If you look at cards like Scrivener or Anarchist, like these are the cards that led to cards like this. The only thing I don't like about this card is that it's double blue. They intentionally don't want you splashing this card.
Yeah. It's kind of like a get you journey or chronicler get to chronicler.
Oh,
yeah. So, but you don't get to play it as a 2-drop, but it only costs 5 instead of 6, and it's in blue. So I think it'll play pretty similarly to that. And that card was very good. Like if you get a 2/2 and 5-backer removal spell, that's like a really good card.
These are the cards that I live for. Just the sweet value cards of getting your dude, getting back a thing from the graveyard.
Yeah.
This is my soul tie lifestyle kind of card. It's not any mnemonic wall, for sure. Like a 2/2 on 5 is kind of eh. But if you're buying back that removal spell, it feels so good. You're blue black, you get back your eviscerate or whatever. You're doing it, my friend.
I mean, I wish I could have mnemonic wall back, but can't have everything.
Can't.
That being said, the 2/2 is pretty underwhelming. This won't go in every deck. This feels like it mostly just goes in your more control-y sort of decks. Your decks with good removal, good.
This deck screams to me to put it in the blue-black deck. The decks that are going to have like Lich's Crest and Murders and things like that. Like it kind of screams to go in that deck, in my opinion.
Yeah, you need to get good spells back, for sure.
I don't see this being great in like blue-green, even blue-white. It doesn't seem fantastic in. Like blue-black and blue-red is where this shines.
Definitely.
Excellent. Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's move on to our swamps. We're going to start the conversation in black with Lich's Caress. Lich's Caress is kind of your basic common black removal spell. It's 3 and 2 black for a sorcery. Destroy target creature, you gain 3 life. These type of cards are kind of interesting to me. I think that people get really excited about them in the beginning of the format, and then I never feel like they really play out as well as you want them to. Like, you don't really want to have to be tapping out, spending 5 mana to kill a creature when you have so many other ways, I think, to more efficiently do it. Like, I think this is a card you're going to play if you have to, but I don't think you're excited to play this card.
I don't know. I'm excited to play this card all day, every day.
Yeah, I think gaining 3 life is going to be a nice addition to your 5 mana removal spell. Because
there have definitely been just 5 mana removal spells in the past where you didn't, and you were just like, ugh.
Yeah, like even last format, like Fiery Intervention was not that great, right? So the 5 mana deal 5 or destroy an artifact.
Right.
It was okay. It was fine.
You still played it.
Yep. But this is definitely better. Like it kills actually everything. And then gaining 3 life black has a sub theme. Like you will get to certain cards you'll benefit from being able to gain life. And then in addition, just gaining 3 life when you're killing their creature is normally a good effect because you'll generally be on the back foot or be losing tempo or trading down on mana or something. So.
The gaining 3 life feels like a good tempo play, and 5 mana kill their guy. It's just I'm playing all of the ones that I ever have in my sealed pool ever. I'm playing 2, maybe 3 in draft. If you're, let's say you're against an aggressive deck, once you hit 5 mana, it's going to feel nice to kill their biggest thing, and also just get that 3 life back, kind of stabilizing the board.
I feel like I'm going to tap out and kill something and just get punished for playing this.
That could happen. I mean, so it's kind of interesting though. So normally the way that it's played out in the past for me is when I'm playing an aggressive deck, I'm okay actually having expensive removal And then if I'm playing a slow deck, I'm less okay with the expensive removal, and I would like the cheap removal.
Efficient.
If that makes sense, right? Because you want to like curve out, and then you don't care how much your removal spell costs if you go 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop.
Like, you just want to get rid of their block.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if you play a 3-mana removal or a 5-mana removal. So, which is interesting. So this might actually play out better in an aggressive deck. I'm not sure. But.
Interesting.
I was never sad tapping out for Eviscerate. I was never sad tapping out for...
I think there's a huge difference between 4 and 5, though.
There is. There definitely is.
And Contract Killing was always fine. Ixalan was a weird format, though, so it was less fine in that. But when we got to Rivals, it was better.
Yeah, definitely.
And in a slower format, it's going to be pretty good. Even against mid-range decks, it kills their best thing. Against these huge decks, it kills their best thing. Against aggro decks, gains you some life, comes down a little late, but it kills their best thing. Sure.
I mean, I think that the life gain is really the thing that makes this card a lot better than previous spells that did a similar thing in the slot. You know, it allows you to, not feel like, you're just going to get smashed back the next turn.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the next card is another great reprint, Skymarch Bloodletter. It's a 2/2 for 2 and a black with flying. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent loses 1 life and gains 1 life. Again, this is that better Windrake, casting cost, and it kind of plays into the black sub theme of taking life from your opponent and giving life to you. Well, what do we think about this?
I've always loved Skymarch Bloodletter. That card is sweet, and it even has like the life gain sub theme is also so it like fits really nicely in black white especially.
Yeah, last time we saw it, it had the vampire synergies going for it. Now it has like the life gain synergies going for it with like you go 2-drop a Johnny's Pride Mate into 3-drop this. Oof.
I mean, to be honest with you, like I love just a 2/2 flyer for 3 that does something. Like we kind of talked about that earlier. Like you said, you're like we were happy to play with Windrake,
Yeah.
And again, this is just another better Windrake card.
And again, it scares me. Because it tells me, hey, this deck or this format's going to be a little bit more. It might be a little bit more aggressive. I'm like, please.
Power creep frightens Nick.
Yeah. This is the type of card that makes me think a Johnny's Prime Mate's going to be like super broken in the set, but like that card's going to be insane. But
I'll be the one to say that I'm one of the few that actually liked Amonkhet Limited. I like killing my opponent on turn 4. But I don't normally like most aggressive formats. And yeah, with a Johnny's Pride Mate, you go like, that guy, he's an uncommon, sure. But you can build around him. You go that guy into this guy, then you're swinging for 5, maybe even more on turn 4.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, Carinos.
All right, let's talk about Strangling Spores. Strangling Spores is your quintessential instant speed black removal spell. It is 3 and a black. Target creature gets -3/-3 till end of turn. This is just that workhorse kind of black removal spell that does everything you need it to do, in my opinion. I mean, this is the card that
4 mana, right?
Yeah, 3 and a black.
how do you think this one is going to compare to the Lich's Caress? Is that what the? Yeah.
I mean, I'm a lot happier having this in my deck.
I don't know if I'd be happier having it. Like I think in sealed, I definitely want more Lich's Crest for sure. I have to look. I would have to look. I haven't looked at like the power.
How many things it actually kills?
Yeah, if this kills a lot of things at common and uncommon, then I'm happy. But if a lot of commons and uncommons, and you start noticing a lot of commons and uncommons have 4 toughness, 5 toughness, this still does kill them. It's instant speed, right?
It is instant speed. Yeah.
It could kill them in combat, but it's not guaranteed to get your guy.
I think it just does a lot of things that you want it to do. And I'm just kind of quickly glancing through the set, but I don't see a lot of things at common and uncommon that this doesn't kill. Like there's not a lot of things with 4 toughness. In fact, there's quite a few things that are 4/3s. There's quite a few things that are 3/3s. I think this kills most of the things that you actually want it to kill.
Yeah, it at least looks like it'll trade even mana. So it doesn't look like it'll trade up on mana. So most of the things that cost 5 are bigger than 3 toughness, but most of the 4 drops don't have 4 toughness, so it'll probably play out really well, actually. I'm still
It is
not
really
sure which one I would rather have in like a draft deck, but
I think
this-
one of the
I think
things
go
that
for
I
that.
like about this card is it gives you have to respect and fear this card. Like if my opponent sins and the attack looks funny and they have, 3 and a black up, like I have to respect and fear this card. And I think that's one of the things that like having cards like this in the format do, especially when you get into like higher level limited competition. You have to fear certain combat tricks, especially one like this that's a common that's pretty likely your black opponent has it.
Yeah, it's a great card. I think Lich's Crest is a great card too, and we're gonna have to see. I'm gonna have to draft the format a little bit more to see which one, the first one, I want more. If I get it, like a first pack, all the other cards suck, but we have strangling.
Which one do we take?
Yeah, which one do we take? We're gonna have to wait and see.
Yeah, I like that, and I also like the comment you made earlier that like Lich's Caress is definitely a card you're very excited about in sealed. You know what I mean? It kills all the bombs, and the games are a little slower. So I like that. I like that a lot. The last black card we're going to talk about is Vampire Neonate. Vampire Neonate is definitely one of those cards, that really embraces the lose life, gain life sub-theme. It's a 0/3 for 1 black. You pay 2 colorless and tap it. Each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. This is a U card, isn't it, Nick?
Yeah, I think this was Nick's card.
This was my card.
Okay.
This was my card. We go back and we put this in Oath of the Gatewatch Limited. I'm picking these up all the time, every day. So if this format ends up being more about, if we see these 2-1s, these 2-3s, these 2-2s, this thing can really like clog up the board pretty early. And in late game, you have kind of a mana sink to start draining out. Draft a couple of these, build a real slow kind of like big butt deck. You could have a potentially
So the
real
card,
win con.
yeah, the card that this reminds me of was Wall of the Forgotten Pharaohs. Do you remember that one? So in like Hour of Devastation, that card was very good. Like you would take it like 4th, 5th, 6th, like that card was great, and it
was colorless.
Similar. Yeah, that one was colorless, and it didn't have a mana to activate.
Yeah. This
one costs 1 instead of 2, and then you also gain life, so it kind of prevents them from killing you in addition to being a... So I think it's probably similar to that. It feels worse. I think you're going to have to be using the gain life as like part of synergy in your deck in order for me to really want to be playing this card.
Crozier or Johnny's probably made on command, which is real sweet.
One of the things I find interesting about this card, and this card caused me to kind of scroll up and read some of the other cards that are on that life gain sub-theme. Almost all of these cards say each opponent, leading me to believe that we're in a design space where Wizards is definitely paying attention to what the limited format feels like for Two-Headed Giant. And I'm not the biggest fan of Two-Headed Giant, but I like that with very little minor templating, they can make it better for Two-Headed Giant without really affecting my 1v1 gameplay.
Sure, I love Two-Headed Giant, and if I play some Two-Headed Giant, M19, which I probably will, let's not lie, this card's going to be a huge annoyance. They're going to play a guy on turn 1, and I'm like, oh.
Right, they're going to be like, take 2.
Oh.
Yeah, that card's going to be a pain in the butt, for sure. Into it,
I think it could be a real kind of win con that you could kind of build around if you build this defensive deck.
It could. I feel like you're going to have to make use of the gaining life. Like, I think just on rate, it's not going to be good enough. But
no, I feel like I'm speaking too much in hyperbole, but yeah, it's not like amazing. I just think you could build around it. I think it could be good if you got these 2-3s, 2-2s, 2-1s flying around. Not flying.
Right?
But if you have all these guys on the ground, this guy blocks them.
If they're flying around, it's an issue.
Yeah, not flying. Everything but flying. But yeah.
Yeah, everything but flying. If you can just block all these guys and drain for days, I think it could be okay.
All right. Well, next we're going to move on to the color of burn. We're going to talk about Electrify first. This is your workhorse red removal spell. It's 3 and a red. It's an instant. It deals 4 damage to target creature. I mean, this is really kind of just your bread and butter removal that you want to be able to kill nearly every common and uncommon in the format. And it looks like at first glance that it pretty much does that.
Is Electrify instant speed?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, this is one of the best removal spells in the format. It competes with like strangling spores. I don't think it's as good as luminous bonds. I still think luminous bonds probably holds my bill for the best one right now. But
I can see that.
Yeah, it kills mostly everything at common and uncommon, and there's not much else to say. It's just great removal. Play
Yeah,
all
I mean,
of them.
it just does everything you want it to do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty much at this point. Go ahead.
It's interesting. Like, there's going to be times where Electrify is actually worse than the strangling spores.
Yeah.
So it can technically kill a 4 toughness creature, which is better. But if you're doing like the in combat trick on like a big 6/6, then your Electrify will trade 2 for 1, but your strangling spores will trade 1 for 1. If you have
I
a
think
big
you meant the
creature.
other way around.
Well, no. So like, I have a 4/4. They have a 6/6,
okay.
right?
They
Yeah.
get the 2 for 1. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but I think Electrify in general will be better. As long as there's 4 toughness creatures, but there really aren't that many. It looks like most of them are uncommons that have actually 4 toughness specifically. So
Yeah,
I think
there seems to be like a lot of 3 toughness, a lot of 2 toughness.
Yeah, I was also kind of surprised how many 4/3s it look like there are.
yeah, there's a lot of 4/3. So Giant Spider, that card is probably going to be an interesting 4 toughness creature, just because that card is pretty good.
Yeah.
And it'll line up well against a lot of the flyers. So Electrifying being able to kill that is probably going to come up quite frequently.
Yeah, the 4 versus 3 mode on this for Strangling Spores probably wins, but Electrify is still great. Always play it.
Still very good. I think that's just going to speak to how good the black removal is going to be. Because Electrify is like premium red removal, and if Strangling Spores is better than this, and we both think Lich's Caress is pretty good, I think black is going to be set up to be really well equipped to handle, like just really good.
As it should be.
Let's talk about Goblin Motivator. Goblin Motivator is a 1/1 for 1 red. It's you tap it to give target creature haste until end of turn. Now, this effect was pretty powerful in Amonkhet Limited. And again, this effect has been less powerful in some other limited formats. I think, again, when you guys kind of talk about how certain cards are better or worse based on how aggressive the format is, I think this is one of the cards that really rises or drops in value based on the aggression level of the format.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in Amonkhet, it had blood. What was that card called? Bloodlust Insider? Something like that?
I believe Bloodlust Insider.
Yeah. I think that's what it was.
So Amonkhet was like one of the most aggressive formats that I've played in. And that card like wasn't great. Like you would play it occasionally, but it wasn't like super good. And so I think if like this format would have to just be so aggressive for this card to be good.
Oh, in my experience, Bloodlust Insider was really, really good in that format.
It was scary, but like I don't know. It's kind of like high risk, high reward, right? Like when it was good, it was really good, but there was a lot of times I just didn't do anything. But it was your best draws, right?
Emberhorn Minotaur was like this guy's best friend ever. But I don't think we have anything. Emberhorn Minotaur was the 4/3 that exerts and becomes like a 5/4. And
yeah, that guy was huge.
Card.
Yeah, and so like this, I think that guy had some best friends back in the day. I don't think we have things that are that good in this format, like things that want to be that aggressive, punching through all this damage. And
I mean, this card to me really like feels most at home in like your red green decks. You know, like being paired with like your bigger green guys that you're trying to come down early. I mean, that's really its home.
So you're going to be behind a lot of those times in those decks, though, right? Like in your red green decks, you're not normally the aggressor. I think you're normally trying to like stabilize with a big guy and then turn the corner relatively quickly, but maybe not.
Sure.
This might be. I think this feels a little bit like a trap to
I agree.
Some players.
It's probably just it's one of. I get what you're saying. It's one of those cards that looks just good enough that you're going to try it, and then by the time we get a few weeks into the format, we're going to know very quickly where its power level lies.
Yeah, it is the type of card that so if my draft is going badly, I often try to think of like, okay, how can I reasonably win matches of Magic? And this is the type of card that's like a high risk, high reward card, right? So if my deck sucks, but I just have a Goblin Motivator, I can like sideboard it in if I'm like very outmatched and just like, oh, if I draw this on turn 1, I'm gonna be able to like, yeah, exactly. Like I might be able to win this game if I just go this and did 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop. So I think it has its places, but I think overall it's not gonna be a great card. It'll go late.
In sealed, I would not play this. I don't think I would play this.
Very bad. Very bad.
So let's move on
don't
to
do BTM in it.
let's move on to Spark Tongue Dragon. I think from a design perspective, this is one of the more flavorful, interesting cards in the commons in the set. Spark Tongue Dragon is a 3/3 flyer for 3 and 2 red. When it enters the battlefield, you may pay 2 and a red. When you do, it deals 3 damage to any target. It really just feels like a cool red card. It's one of those cards that, like, you're not happy playing it as 3/3 flyer for 5, but you don't hate life either. And when you get to theoretically kick it, it's incredibly good.
Yeah. This card seems great. Like 5 mana.
3/3 for 5 and flying. Sorry, go ahead.
That's pretty good. No, yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. Like, just the 5 mana mode of this card is fine, right? Not great.
Right, it's good.
Okay.
It's good, not great.
good, not great. But the 8 mana mode is going to be very insane. It's going to play like Kicker from the last set, right?
Exactly.
And Kicker is always great.
I find it interesting that because it's a core set that we didn't just make it a Kicker card. You know what I mean? We gave it that triggered ability instead because we don't want to have more keyword abilities.
So yeah, but the 3 damage is really relevant too, as we've been saying.
Incredibly, yeah.
As we've been saying, 3 is kind of like the key on toughness and creatures in this set. We haven't seen many 4s. We've seen 1s, 2s, and 3s. We haven't seen many 4s or 5s yet. So I think the 3 damage is actually going to kill a lot more than it looks like it actually
It'll
will
kill like a 4-drop, right? Which is like
huge.
Which is a big deal for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I like this card a lot. Like, and one of the things I really like about this card is just it. Like, not only is this a good card, but this is a card that feels good. It feels like a red card. It feels very, thematically powerful. Like, it actually, I think from a design perspective, this is like a kudos, well done, Wizards.
Yeah, I'm glad because people are going to be jamming their big dumb dragons at the pre-release, and this is actually a big dumb dragon that's actually pretty good.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, kids love dragons and angels.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Shock. Shock is better or worse in different limited formats. I mean, this is our replacement for Lightning Bolt. This is what Wizards has determined is acceptable in 1 mana, 1 red mana at instant speed. What do we think about Shock in this format? Do we think there's enough things that it actually kills to make it viable?
Yeah, I think it's going to be insane. Like really good. But so from my first glance, I think it might be just the best red common, maybe like the best common. But it kills 4-drops. There's like multiple 4-drops that it kills, and it kills most 3-drops. There's not a lot of 2/3s. And I think that Shock is just going to play out to be a huge tempo swing. If you can build any type of an aggressive red deck, you're going to be able to double spell very fast and have Shock be super meaningful and trade up for like 2 or 3 mana. I think it's going to be insane.
I think Shock's always a good card. It's just I feel like there's a lot of 3 toughness, so I'm just not sure if it kills as many things as it did in previous formats.
Wait, out of the ones that we've that we've talked about before, like I have Aven Wind Mage that kills it most of the time.
Sure.
Skymarch Bloodletter that kills it most of the time. Like the 2.
Your opponent ever plays a Snapping Drake? Like.
Then you feel like a champion.
Yeah, like the game has ended. And Snapping Drake is like gonna see play probably, right?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, that card.
4/2.
It's a 3/2 for a flyer for 4 in white.
That
card, though, the 3/2 flyer for 4 always gets played.
Yeah, or black has the 4/2 menace for 4, and that's not great, but I could definitely see people putting that in their deck, and then it kills almost all of the 2-drops. Sometimes it kills 3-drops. Like, Shock doesn't have to do that much for it to just be amazing, right? Like, if it kills a 3-drop,
well done.
Huge deal.
Absolutely.
Listen, you only have to draft 10 of them.
That's it.
You only have to draft 10 of them to do 20. So
10 shocks, 30 mounts.
Let's talk about Viashino Pyromancer. How do we feel about Viashino Pyromancer? It is a 2/1 for 1 and a red. When it enters play, it deals 2 damage to target player or planeswalker.
This is aggressive.
This is aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's right where the aggro red decks think they want to be, but I'm not sure if it's actually good enough to be where they want to be is the question.
The card that this reminds me of when I was looking at it is Nest Robber. This is essentially
2/1 haste.
Yeah, this is essentially a 2/1 with haste.
Sure.
Kinda, except that in the late game it gets its damage in, right? Like Nest Robber did nothing when you drew it on turn 5. Like 4.
This cheats him. This cheats him with 2 damage.
Yeah.
And Nest Robber wasn't
good.
Nest Robber wasn't great when we saw it. It was okay. Yeah. And I think that's kind of where this guy is going to fall. It's a little better than Nest Robber.
Yeah, I think it's better.
This card feels to me a lot like in our discussion about Cavalry Drillmaster. How in the early game it's your bear that you want it to be, you know what I mean? But it also just has like the inherent spell attached to it. I think that there's a lot of validity in that when you talk about like, you know, how many times have we been playing the red deck where you just need to get through another 2 or another 4.
Exactly.
And I think this is one of those cards that gives you some of that reach that maybe you didn't have in previous formats. And I mean, occasionally you get to shoot a planeswalker. Maybe.
Sure. Yeah, if that happens, then sure.
Yeah, but
I think the Drill Master is definitely better than this, though, right? So like,
I'm definitely screen capping it the first time I shoot a planeswalker with it.
You should send it to me. But the Drill Master sometimes will get in like 4 damage, right? Because it's making an attack viable that isn't viable. Whereas this is like it always gets in its 2, which is sometimes better, sometimes worse.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think that if the red decks need a tiny little bit of reach, it reminds me of the kind of thing that Rodney Ruins kind of really gave you that like tiny bit of extra reach, you know, because it was like just that 2 extra damage. And like if we're in a world where you need like 2 extra damage, you know, consistently, this is the good kind of card to have in the format.
Yeah, you'll top deck it and feel good, or your opponent will top deck it and you'll feel bad. Like that.
It's definitely somebody's gonna feel bad when this card gets cast.
It's probably a little better in draft than it is in sealed.
Yeah, I think anything that leans aggressive is better in draft.
Yeah, I think that's a just blanket statement that we should probably make.
Yeah, that's almost always true. Like, just because your aggro decks, it's hard. You can't guarantee a curve in sealed, right? Like, in sealed, you open up a certain number of 2-drops, whereas in draft, you have prioritize. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't really have options to be aggressive. You are like you either get it or you don't.
And honestly, that's one of my favorite things about limited is that cards. You know, even though we use limited as a blanket term for sealed and draft, like cards can have a very different feel and a very different power level between the two.
Yeah.
Again, the Drill Master, it's a lot better than this one. And this reminds me of Nest Robber. And so
I can see it
kind of
playing like Nest Robber a lot. Like that's a pretty reasonable comparison.
I'm kind of down on this guy.
I don't think it's great. But red doesn't have good 2-drops though, so it's this guy or the 1/1 that makes another 1/1.
Honestly, in just like casually flipping through red and like reviewing primarily the commons, I looked a little bit at the uncommons, but like red doesn't strike me as particularly powerful in general in this format. Yeah, it looks underwhelming. Like I'm not excited. Yeah. I'm not excited to play things like Fire Elemental.
No, you gotta avoid that. I think red looks like. Yeah, and you have Smelt. That's like a wasted card. But
compared to the white cards that we've talked about, compared to the blue cards that we talked about, compared to the black cards that we talked about, red kind of feels like we have Electrify. Sweet, we have Sparksong Dragon. Sure. Okay, and we have Shock. Shock's great, and then it kind of.
And now what? And now what?
It seems like you're gonna want to play a little bit of red. But not very much. Like there are some good cards. Like Shock is very powerful. So like you could have a white-red deck where you're mostly just playing a bunch of white cards and then you're trying to shock.
I think you're gonna want to splash red, and I think you're gonna have a hard time playing a base red deck in this format. But I mean, again, that's just an early, just like glancing at the cards. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I can see that.
let's go ahead and move on to your green cards. For those of you who love Forest, we're going to start with Daggerback Basilisk. Daggerback Basilisk is a good quality 3-drop. It's 2 and a green for a 2/2 with Death Touch. And I'm really hyped about this card. Like, this card has been, this is another reprint card that is incredibly interesting, and I think it's the kind of card that you like to have in green because it's a foe removal spell. So
yeah, this card's gonna be super annoying. This is your Sedge Scorpion for those who played back in Theros or whatever other 1-drop Death Toucher that you had. It's gonna hold back legions of creatures forever and ever.
So, are there any combos? So I know Death Touch is a very interesting keyword, and sometimes it goes really nicely with other cards. And I was trying to see if there was any,
I'm a big fan of Death Touch and Trample.
Yeah, Death Touch and Trample is sweet. That's always very good.
But yeah, I'm not sure if there's anything.
I mean, Rabid Bite is a good one.
Yeah, Rabid Bite allows you to kill anything.
But that's you're kind of 2-for-1ing yourself at that point. You
Well, no, they don't fight.
It only goes one way.
Oh, that's
it's not a fight. Yeah, it just goes one way.
Never mind. It's great.
Yeah. There
Declare Dominance is cute.
Yeah, Declare Dominance will be insane. That will be a very good combination. It's that one is 5 mana. Target creature gets +3/+3, and all creatures able to block it must do so. Which is just you'll clear the whole.
I think those are your best reasonable limited combinations for it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's fine.
This attack's great because they don't want to block it usually, and it blocks even better because it takes down anything that moves, anything that touches it. It's gonna hold back a lot of creatures from attacking, and it's gonna be a good brick wall.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have nothing but good things to say about this card. I think that it's important for Green to have these type of cards, and I think that it really lends itself well to what Green is trying to do, and take a few extra turns, play a fatty. You know what I mean? Kind of smash in the face with the fatty. So.
One thing I do have to say, it dies to shock. But
I was gonna say
it does die to shock.
That dies to shock. And
it's your boy Shock.
If you play this on turn 3 and their turn 3 play was Aven Wind Guide or Sky March Bloodletter or Pegasus Courser, you're gonna feel a little embarrassed.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's fine, but not great. It'll have its moments where it's very good. But 3 mana for a 2/2 Death Touch it doesn't always get the job done like you think it might.
It doesn't, but the power level is so much lower typically in Core Set Limited in comparison to Traditional Limited that I think it makes this card completely viable.
No,
I just love that it can trade up.
Yeah, no, it definitely can.
Yeah, trade-ups are great. The next card is actually that we're going to talk about. It's one of the cards that is a new card, and it's a card that I'm actually really excited about. I think it's a unique take on what Green's trying to do, and it's everything that kind of I like in a green card. It's called Elva's Rejuvenator. It's 2 and a green for a 1/1. When it enters the battlefield, you look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield tap, and you put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So, it's doing the kind of ramping things that Green is wanting to do. I like that it doesn't specify basic land. It lets me put a non-basic land into play, which I think is good. It's like that Wood Elves-y kind of card that I think lends itself well to Green trying to ramp out and do Green things.
I just put it into a calculator. So just so everybody knows, if you run 16 lands, you are 95% to hit or something, and then if you run 17, you're about 95% to hit.
So this thing's always going to hit no matter what.
Yeah. Awesome. You can complain a lot if it ever misses.
This is going to be interesting. It's going to if the ramp from 3 to 5 is really important, this card's going to be amazing. Yeah. If it doesn't matter, if you want to play your 4-drops, it's not going to be as important.
So the biggest thing for me is it sometimes color fixes, right? It at least gets you. Yeah, it does.
I mean, you're
divination color fixes.
12.5% of your deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of in the same way that Commune with Dinosaurs or Divination would color fix you.
Sure, but this puts it in play.
Yeah, it's a good card. It's really good.
And we've talked
but
about a lot of 2/1s, so I think this card will overperform, right? Like as we've been looking through the 2 drops, the ones that we've been wanting to play, like the red 2 drop has 1 toughness. There's Child of Night. There's the Drill Master, Aresco Swift Claw. Like there's a lot of 1 toughness 2 drops, and that's where this card will just shine.
Yeah, this could get the job done in trade, and you'll be really happy. This could get the job done and chump, and you'll still be happy.
Exactly.
But I think the important thing to look at is the ramping from 3 to 5. If that is really important,
how valid is that?
Yeah. Then this card is, if it's really good ramping to 5, this card's going to be fantastic.
Yeah. Again, like one of the things, like I said, that I find interesting about this card, and I know we're specifically talking about limited applications, but the fact that it can put a non-basic into play is interesting to me from a constructed application point. That makes me think that there's something to look at there. So
yeah, I think
maybe
in constructed it'll be pretty reasonable as well.
After thinking about it, it kind of does work like a divination. You play divination to draw cards, but sometimes you play it to hit your land drops.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is pretty much always going to guarantee you get your 4th mana. It's really good.
Yeah, and then he gets another chump box for you as well, which is awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So the next card we're going to talk about is Giant Spider. Giant Spider is a card that's been coming around in limited format since 1993. It's really basic design. It's a 2/4 for 3 and a green with reach, and again, like we talked about, a lot of the stuff having 3 toughness. A lot of the cards that we've looked at as far as flyers go also only really go up to 3 power, which I think makes this card quite good.
Yes.
Yeah. So we've also noticed a bunch of 4/3s as well, just a note. So I think this card will be very good at blocking the flyers, and then there will be a lot of 4-mana 4/3s that can attack through it. Which
right,
is...
and you kind of need that give and take, though.
Yeah. No, I think it's like a nice touch. I think that there will be a lot of 4/3s and giant spiders and flyers all on the battlefield at the same time. It'll be like interesting to try to figure out how those combats are going to work out.
Yeah, giant spider's going to make the opponent's life in combat probably a nightmare. This blocks mostly everything and survives combat mostly all the time. And
in general, giant spider just kind of shores up everything that green wants to do, right? So you want to play the biggest creatures, but you need something to kind of get you there. And then one of your weaknesses is that if someone has flyers and a way to delay you. And so giant spider does most everything that most of your green decks is going to want to do. It like stops the flyers indefinitely and lets you bridge to your late game creatures.
It fills a great role. It's kind of like the mammoth spider we just had in Dominaria.
Yeah, that card overperformed, and that wasn't like a format where there wasn't much aggression, but just it was good just as a 3/5 that could block flyers.
Yeah, and the 3 power was pretty relevant. The 5 toughness was definitely relevant back then.
Yeah.
But yeah, 2/4 seems really good in this format, and it blocks Skymarch Bloodletter fantastically. It can sometimes block Avenwind Mage. Sometimes.
But I feel like a lot of times it gets 2.
Yeah, I mean, I would put my giant spider in front of their Avenwind Mage, right? Like,
yeah, no, I would. I was thinking of one situation where they just have like shock.
Just not setting either.
So yeah, it does block Avenwind Mage all the time.
Yeah.
But if they're playing blue-red, I might be a little bit more careful.
Make them have it.
Sure.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about Rabid Bite. Rabid Bite is a slightly different take on your typical cards, your typical green removal spells. It's 1 in the green for a sorcery. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. So it's like a one-way fight. So we talked about it having an application with the Daggerback Basilisk. There's that being a great combo as a way to kill anything your opponent might play. What do we think about these type of effects in general?
They're generally very good.
Yeah, they're pretty good. What I've noticed is the green cards that we've talked about so far, all are pretty small boys.
Yeah, they're not your traditional big green guys.
You guys have the spoiler open. Could you tell me if there's some big boy green
Yeah,
commons?
so going through the commons, there's a 5-mana 4/5, so Thornhide Wolves is a reprint.
Rock's Oracle is interesting. It's a 5-mana 4/2. When it enters the battlefield, you draw a card.
Okay. Yeah, so there's some big serviceable green guys, and this goes well with Daggerback Basilisk. If you can get one of those Colossal Dreadmaws, your big boy, he's back once again, the needed reprint we really wanted. And yeah, this pairs well with Daggerback Basilisk. You can get 2 for 1. Be very careful of that. You can get 2 for 1 if they just go, all right, electrify your guy,
shock your guy.
Sure.
Then you don't have a target or whatever, and you feel very sad.
Yeah, in general, Rabid Bite has always played pretty well, though, I think. Like, it's just it's efficient. A lot of limited... So, one major way to win a game of limited is by double spelling early, right? So, at least that's like, you can get a lot of advantage if you are the first one to play 2 spells in a turn. And so, if you can play this spell in combination with a 3 or a 4 drop, like, early-ish in the game, then this card is going to like accrue a lot of advantage for you.
Mm-hmm. So. I agree. Yeah, if you can go like 2 drop, 3 drop, 2 drop plus this.
And then that kill their 3 drop, hit them for 5, and then like they're very far behind, right? And so like that's definitely like a way for you to get ahead, and I think that's like a pretty big advantage of having such a cheap removal spell, although it does have its drawbacks.
It could set up some aggressive tempo lines, but yeah, I would be careful with it around open mana.
All right, so this next card is one that I'm going to leave you two out on an island for, because this is right up both y'all's alley.
No, it wasn't
Mr. Fog. Let's talk about Root Snare. It's 1 of the green instant. This is our Fog for the set. Prevent all combat damage that will be dealt this turn. I'm going to be the dissenter here. I actually just despise fog effects, and I think it's not where I want to be ever.
No, me either. I don't like fog effects usually in limited, but I put this on the list because I just wanted to remind people that it was there. I wanted people to make sure that they know there is a fog in this format. Be careful.
You have been warned.
Like, don't attack for 30 when your opponent's at 4. Okay,
right.
Like
attack for 8.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't overextend into their fog, please. For the love of God, I put this here because I wanted all of you to know there's a fog in the format. Be careful,
especially at pre-release. People like the fog at pre-release. That's for sure.
And the other thing to keep in mind is, for those of us who play a lot of limited, and while we wouldn't play this. We think about the game in a very different way than your player who's going to show up at a pre-release. Somebody who's just there. This is their one tournament they play every 4 months. They're just there to have a good time, spend some time with some friends, play some Magic. Like this cards like this, cards like Lava Axe, that's right up their alley.
New players love fogs, so watch out.
Yeah, in general, this card is going to be very bad. Like, do you ever? Is there like a deck that actually wants to put fog? There's not, right? Like,
I don't know if actively. It's some sweet sideboard tech if you can see that you're going to stall out on the board and kind of
yeah. Or if you have a wrath, is there any wraths?
Yeah. There's one at rare.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, but it's bad. It's not great.
But yeah, I wanted people to know there is fog.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. There is a fog. Are there any other? So we've kind of gone down our list of stuff that we specifically wanted to mention. In glancing at the spoiler and having these conversations, was there any other comments that we want to at least bring to the attention of the public, or is there anything else that maybe after reading it a second time that you're excited about?
Yeah, we've been talking about. I've heard the name Child of Night thrown out a little bit, and I hadn't thought about that one, but yeah, it's pretty good. It goes well with the life gain synergies. It's a 2/1 for 2 that can trade up sometimes on mana, and it seems pretty good in the set.
I agree. I think Child of Night is a really good common. I think it's the kind of card that you want to have in a core set. I mean,
my one would probably just be Colossal Dreadmaw. I think that's like your bread and butter big green dumb idiot. Like he's just like, it's always good.
6/6 Trailblaze for 6.
Yeah, Dreadmaw's so good.
Yeah, and I think it's going to overperform in a set that it seems like overall the power and toughness is lower in the set, right? Like, just everything seems pretty small. And so 6/6 is going to be very difficult to trade with.
Yeah, we've said the toughness kind of ends at 3 for most things.
Yeah. And so 6/6 is going to just be like trading 2 for 1. And then if you ever have a trick, then they're dead, right? Like, it's going to be good.
One of the things I do like that Wizards has done lately is give us more of these reprints instead of just making a new card that does the exact same thing. Like, I'm much happier just them reprinting, a card, even if it's a recent reprint, than just making yet another card that just does the same thing just for the sake of, we need a 6/6 trample over 6. I like that they just reprint stuff. One of the cards that we didn't talk about that I think is going to be pretty impactful is Druid of the Cowl. Again, it's your Llanowar Elf style ramp card in the format. Again, like when we discussed Elvis Rejuvenator and it's being good based on how good it is to go from 3 to 5, Druid of the Cowl is one of those cards that, how good is it to skip, go from 2 to 4?
Yeah.
Again. So.
In the same conversation, like Omen Speaker, it seems like 1/3 is going to be a good stat line.
And I like that they've given us a few of them.
Yep. Yeah, I think that the 2/1s are going to actually be a pretty big liability, from what I can tell.
I went off about Child of Night, but we have to see where the format goes, I think.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely. So what's your initial, if you were going to give an initial ranking after having this discussion, how would you rank the 5 colors? Do you want to go ahead and start, Danny?
So, just trying to think about it. I think red looked the worst to me overall.
I think it feels really underwhelming, at least from a common perspective.
I think I agree on that.
As far as what looked the best, I think that there's going to be a very good white aggressive deck. I think that white had just a lot of choices, and like Pegasus Courser seems like way stronger than a lot of the other commons. So that's
white looks pretty good. It
good as
has Call of the Cavalry.
I was going to say, as good as
Call
I
the Cavalry. Sorry. Call of the Cavalry wasn't like as good in Dominaria, I think it'll be better here.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be a lot better in the set than it was before. Like, way, way better.
What I was going to say is I'm the guy who always wants to play blue, and honestly, after looking at blue again, I think blue might be the second worst. I think blue might be that 4th color.
Yeah, it has a lot of situational commons. I think it'll probably heavily depend on how good Divination is, right? Like, Divination looks like the kind of key mark common that could actually be really powerful. But yeah, overall, I think blue will probably underperform.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that way, and I hate saying that.
Yeah.
If I had to give a ranking, like 1 to 5, this is just based off of not very much information of the format yet. It might be like white, green, black, blue, red.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's completely reasonable. Yeah.
Maybe black could be higher, just depending on how good those the 5 and 4 mana removal spells are. But I think green will overperform just because big things are going to be good.
And I think blue will underperform because, like you've mentioned, a lot of blue's cards are really situational.
Yeah. Sweet.
Okay, well, that's our common set review for Core 19. Once again, this show is brought to you by 2 wonderful sponsors. We have Oasis Games in Salt Lake. You can reach them at www.oasisgameslc.com. We're also sponsored by the Mana Base, and you can find them at www.themanabase.com. If you're interested in supporting the show, you can support us on Patreon at LTOMTG. And you can find our podcast in a few different places. We are available on iTunes. We are available on, you can watch the VOD on YouTube. You can also subscribe to the channel if you want to catch our weekly live shows. And then you can always post on our Twitter. And there's also the Facebook group. So we're pretty accessible. We're pretty out there. And that's our show for the week. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Bye, guys.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.